Joining us right now to talk about this is Democratic Congressman from Tennessee, Steve Cohen. He serves on the House Judiciary Committee. Congressman, thanks for being here. What are you going to be asking today?
Well, we're going to mostly just let Jack Smith talk. Have some questions about what might be not known by the public that he had as part of his evidence that showed that the president was guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Maybe ask a few other questions, but mostly we want Jack Smith to talk. I sat in a part of the closed deposition, and Jack Smith is brilliant, and he was well prepared, and he just went circles around the folks asking questions. He had an answer and an appropriate answer for everything. He is really a master of the courtroom and a master of the law.
But speaking about what could be coming with a CNN legal analyst, Elliot Williams, just a short time ago, and he said, while it's important for this to be said in public, he did say, though, this is going to be, and at the end of the day, a relitigation of both the 2020 election results and the 2023 investigations into Donald Trump, which the two political parties have very different views on. In another round of testimony, his take isn't going to change those views. So what is actually going to come of this? Do you believe or hope?
I think there may be some changes. Now, the Democrats, we are going to let Jack Smith talk, and some questions, but let him talk. As far as people that think it's going to be theater, it might be theater on the other side. The Republicans will try to catch him in some type of a misstatement for the purposes of the Justice Department, which has been weaponized to try to find a way to take him into court. They don't need to have much of a way because they've had cases where they tried to bring against Comey and against Libby, I think is their name, the Attorney General and the District Attorney General in New York State. Mm-hmm. But James, that where the grand jury has refused to indict, and that's almost never happens. That's the whole ham sandwich argument. You get somebody to indict a ham sandwich. Well, the ham must have been rotten, and the ham is rotten. There's something that smells rotten in Denmark.
Let me ask you a couple things about that. I'm also tracking how Democrats are planning to potentially wage a fight against DHS funding from Capitol Hill over Trump's ICE operations. Axios is reporting that Leader Jeffries told you all in a closed-door meeting yesterday he opposes a bill to fund DHS. Raja Krishnamurthy was on with me earlier this week, and he says that he seems to be in a similar place. He wants to abolish Trump's ICE as it is today. Do you want to abolish ICE as it is today?
Yes, I do. ICE has gone beyond the pale in what they've done on the streets and hiding their identities, wearing the masks, not having their names on a badge or having a badge where they can be identified, and just grabbing people and violating the law. They didn't have the right to go into the car of Ms. Good. They cannot do anything except enforce the immigration laws or stop some type of impediment of the immigration laws. None of that was happening. So they've gone way beyond their powers, and they are basically a revolutionary guard on our streets. When your previous story about the hospitals' conditions being upset because of ICE, there's churches being upset, you name it. There are lots of problems. ICE is on the rocks, and ICE ought to be neat.
You mentioned Denmark. The president is wrapping up his time in Davos. He announced a framework of a future deal with regard to Greenland following his push to own and acquire Greenland. He did say that he is not going to use military force. That does seem to be off the table. Could you see the end result of this? Again, details are thin, but after all of the hyperbolic language, that this could be a good thing for U.S. national security?
Well, we have a treaty with Denmark from 1951 that allows us to put the bases in Denmark. And we've had bases, we've removed bases, we've still got Pituffik, and I've been to Pituffik. There's not much in Denmark, and there's not much around our base there. It's a space base. But we've always had the authority to have defense bases there. If he wants to have his gold dome there, which it makes sense that it would be, and NATO agrees. Now, Denmark's not bound by it, but the NATO Commissioner General apparently decided they'd work on that and get it done. That's okay. But he's apparently concerned about Russia shooting missiles at us, ballistic missiles, over the Arctic Ocean. Why isn't he concerned about Russia shooting missiles in Kyiv? It doesn't make sense. But now that he pulled back, he retreated in Davos. So now I guess this is the 9th war that he's stopped and made peace, even though he created the war, which should give him like a demerit, but he did end it. So he's now ended 9 wars.
Well, we do know that with regard to the war in Ukraine, the president just left a meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky and his envoys headed to Moscow, I believe tomorrow, for another round of negotiations. No breakthroughs yet, but they do say that the meeting was good. Congressman, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming in. Again, he will be one of the... Thank you. He's one of the members who will be questioning Jack Smith as that hearing is set to begin at the top of this hour.